Hello, 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 and welcome to GovCon After Hours, episode 4. We finally made it. Oh my gosh. So I am Caitlin Ruiz, and I'm here with Dr. Robin Desmore, and we are here to hopefully provide some clarity amidst the chaos, one drink at a time. And today, it's not as alcoholic as it normally is. I have bronchitis / pneumonia, we're not entirely sure. So you'll also hear me cough a few times. I hope to be able to mute the mic to avoid that for you guys, but this is a hot toddy for today, so it's not my normal vodka cranberry. How about you, Dr. Desmore? What are you working with?
I have a ginger snap. I've created it myself out of my own ginger juice that I normally make and then added a little bit of spiced rum.
It's
Hey.
beautiful. I like the glass. Look at that. The flamingos, so pretty. Awesome. Well, on today's topic of our episode, I think what we want to tackle in a broad kind of category way is AI. So obviously this is GovCon, but artificial intelligence forever taking over that landscape and the industry, all tech, all things, not just GovCon, right? But in our world, GovCon is well known for compliance and rule following and all sorts of fun stuff, right? And so when you think of AI and how it can hurt, benefit, everything in between when it comes to GovCon as an industry, I think we really have to keep in mind that the process and the rules and all that shit actually really matters, right? So when we're talking about AI and what it can and can't do and how we've seen it or have chosen to avoid it maybe for some reason, like it's not right for your business or your process. So we want to have a candid conversation about what have you seen, what crazy shit is going on, is there any cool stuff we should know about? And then we'll, of course, share with you what we've seen so far, and hopefully collectively we can figure this shit out.
Yay! One drink at a time. We're appropriately looking at the AI shots today and looking at how AI impacts GovCon as a whole, but really just having a bigger conversation about it because there's people on all sides of this fence, both of them being, yeah, we're using AI. Yeah, I'm kind of using AI. Yeah, I'm using AI, but I'm not telling anybody I'm using AI. And no, I'm not using AI. It freaks me out or whatever particular capacity. But the best part of this conversation has been that you and I have been back and forth going, did you know this? And did you know this? And I have to say, I play with the AI. I mean, I'm an academic and I just want to know what's going on and actually be able to identify it and see how it works. But also see how it can help build the body of knowledge, but also build the processes and help us be more efficient. Now, this is ironic just because AI has been around for a very long time, but also part of the conversation that you have now, and we did find, in DoD, they have set some guidance, and there is a couple of, EOs, executive orders out there that have, tried to say, okay, how do we do this and still stay safe? But I found a lot more information about it. So I don't know if everybody knows, and if you don't know, this is why we're having this conversation. We don't know everything, but we definitely want to have a big conversation about what it looks like. So Caitlin, what do you think?
Yeah, that's a great point. So the executive orders, the research that we got to do and going back and forth, our own candid conversations for this episode. I want to start off by saying I thought it was too funny that the other day Robin and I were having a conversation about AI, and I was like, girl, did you know there's like 3 or 4 types? And she was like, what are you talking about? There's like 700. And I was like, you know what? You're probably right. But what I meant to say was, honestly, there's from our research, it looks like there's these 3 kind of bigger categories. One being automation, so AI used for like automated processes, all that good shit. Then there's generative or predictive, right? So the generative one is like the content creation, the chat GPTs that write the paper for you, or the content for you or whatever, versus the predictive analytical data sets, looking at stuff kind of AI. And then the EOs that came out were so interesting. The ones that I read were specifically how feds and contractors, so all of our service providers and all of our clients that we support, they should all be kind of embracing AI with a soul, if you will. Like the entire EO was more about, we can't really lay down any laws because you could use like one of 7,000 different kinds of AI, but what we want you to do is try to mitigate bias, right? And all of these different ways in which AI could be more damaging to a process than helpful. Ways in which, for example, in my world in recruiting, AI like resume scanners and things like that. So just there's no human element to it anymore. Whereas, let's say a mom who maybe was out of the workforce for a period of time because she had a child, an AI screening element may immediately disqualify her when in fact there was clearly a reason for it and she should be considered anyway. So to try to avoid the discrimination and the discriminatory practices kind of as a whole
Yep.
was really the aim of a lot of these EOs. But I think it would be the way that they were written, it was kind of interesting. They really did say we don't know a lot. So we're really hoping that you guys, the world, the industry, just keeps that humanity in check and in practice, I guess. Is that kind of what you got from most things yesterday or the day before when we were going through it?
Well, yeah, and we've been doing research and conversations and just inside Avangard as a whole, it's constantly something that we bring up. We actually have a policy already about how you can use it, because we have so much client-facing, aspects of our job that, like if you're using it, you're not using it with clients unless there's something very specific, and you can't use it as your own work. And we have a really good definitive of it. However, when I was looking at it from a DoD perspective and the federal contractor side of it, there is a toolkit out here, which I thought was absolutely, so back in November of last year, so we're almost a year into it, there was a toolkit established, and I thought this was actually just amazing, that they had a responsible artificial intelligence toolkit that DoD had put out there as to basically to identify, track, and improve alignment with, AI projects. Now, it feels so old because it is from last year, so I went looking, and it's still, the conversation is so out there, but it's like constant conversation, but not necessarily any implementation of regulations and stuff to it. Now, again, anybody else is listening, if something else pops up, that wouldn't surprise me. But I don't know that they can control something that they don't actually understand. And I think that based on what you just even said, Caitlin, they're trying to figure out, hey, industry, how can we use this, or how do we not? I know that recently I have been working with a couple of companies in regards to AI software that they have developed to do similar stuff to what you're talking about as far as the resumes, but doing it on the other side. Acquisition and procurements can be maybe more efficient if you have an AI tool that's, trying to help, consolidate whether or not it's a pass-fail or whether or not it's meeting all the standards. We're talking proposals. We're talking about any kind of statement of work that could be out there. So, and I know that probably makes a lot of people anxious and concerning that it's taking this, and this is where the bias comes into play that you mentioned, right? This is a big conversation I've had with a lot of technologists, is that there is a bias, you, me, or whomever is saying, oh, well, it can't make a decision as I can. You're right, it can't. However, it can take the bias that you may have out of something towards, whether it's your technology, my technology, somebody else's technology. It could take that bias out and say, does it meet what we need? Does it meet the standards? Does it meet the expectation? Is it, ensuring that all of the regulations or compliance, whether that's with NIST or with CMC, whatever it may be, are being met based off of what the software is? And it could also probably tell you, if you give it the right data models, to whether or not it's been breached. And if it has, like what kind of risks you may have to have with it. So big, huge conversation. Also a little bit of controversy, just because those who aren't working or talking or embracing it in some way, and I'm saying embracing in a very loose way, they don't know what they may be missing or how they're missing the conversation and the progression.
Yeah, I think honestly, so the biased piece is super important because it works both ways. So you're mentioning like it helps, or it can help, versions of AI can help kind of strip out that bias in your decision-making process in the end once it's cumulatively presented you, like the data, for example, right? And so you're like, well, but I like Fred better. No, Fred scored an 8 out of 10. Sam was a 9.5. I don't care if you like Fred better. We're going with Sam, right? It makes more sense. But a lot of the conversation and topics, or even the reporting that we went through, talked a lot about shit data in, shit data out. So what data models are these systems pulling from? So is inherently AI biased just based on the fact that the data that exists in the world that it can crawl through or has access to create this information that it hands you is in and of itself biased fucking data. So unless you can somehow clean that strip, whatever, right? And I get that. We talk about that all just in life in general, right? People have all these subconscious biases, data, and how we're kind of teaching it then to all the computers to have those things as well. So it's still a two-sided coin, right? It can help strip the bias in the end, but you got to have clean data, and also you have to be really careful up front, proactively about kind of the data that you're just be mindful of what data it used to get there, I guess.
Yeah, no. You're 100% on, and I think that that's where a lot of people, you're going to ask for that easy button, right? What's
Yeah.
the easy button
Yep.
to get this done, and what's the easy button to learn this? And as we're telling you, we found very conflicting information. Not that it's all any of it's wrong, and some of it all does lead back to each other. It's just much like the CMMC.
Yeah. Yeah.
So much data out there. How do you know what's the right data for you, and how do you know what's the right perspective that you need to take as a company? It's all up to you. That's the problem, and I would rather stay in front of it as opposed to behind it, because there also are pieces, and you could probably talk a little bit better about this than the resumes, right? If you send a resume through generative AI like ChatGPT, you get Lord knows what you're getting, right? It may sound like the most eloquent, resume you've ever read in your life, but is it all accurate, or is it
No.
all
Yeah.
misleading in some way, shape, or form? Right? I mean,
Yep.
I've actually done it because I wanted to see if you could see it. Now I put mine through it, and I have just pages of it already, and boy, I came out looking as stellar as I possibly could, and I go, wow, I feel like I could be a superstar right now, and just that. But at the same time, I have a horrible conscience going, no, that's not, me. But maybe it's the best version of what AI could come up with for me. So what is your perspective on that? Because this is like our future, right? The more this starts going on, GovCons could be doing the same thing with their, perspective into a government, right? Like, hey, AI, write this, art, and it writes, and it's just this perfect, absolute perfect proposal. But you have to live up to that. You have to live to that standard and that reputation that whatever's created for you. And if it does say something you don't catch, it's false, fraudulent. There's a lot of words in there that make people cringe, including myself. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So I've done it both to myself, run my own stuff through ChatGPT. I also will run like really shitty fucking resumes through ChatGPT and try to redo them to then present them later on to clients down the road. And every time I do that, it literally creates more work than it helps with most of the time. Just in that instance, there's a lot of actual instances where ChatGPT killed it, but in this instance, it was shitty. It kicked back a ton of like fluff, right? So to your point, there was a lot of eloquence, a lot of whatever, but I'm not writing a story. A resume is supposed to be, succinct and concise. And the other thing that it did that I thought was too funny was emojis all the time. Like we've talked at length about like when you get ChatGPT to write like a LinkedIn post for you, and it's like emoji central, right? They're everywhere. I'm like, what are you doing, machine? So there are a lot of times where it is just a machine. And I think for our industry, for GovCon specifically, we really have to like teach ChatGPT. There's so many nuances to this industry specifically. It's just such a small niche thing, and so a lot of the times, what it does kick back is great to use as like a springboard for further content creation or whatever. But it's never the end product. It really is more like a brainstorming session, me back and forth with it, and then me having to fix it. And that's everything from proposals to resumes to bios to sometimes I use it for outlines at the panels and the speaking events that we do, things like that. But it never on the first try does it come back and I'm like, this is amazing and perfect for GovCon. Fucking never. So again, you just kind of have to keep that in the back of your mind, like bring that with you and evaluate what it's putting out.
Yeah.
But I do think it's a great tool. I do AI as a whole, ChatGPT specifically. I know there's a number of other systems that we see in GovCon. I'm trying to think to your point, quite a few are in the market intelligence sector. So like all the capture and proposals and BD stuff, because those predictive analytics are pretty fucking good from what I understand, and the way that it works there. But do you know of any, are there any other systems or that you've used personally, or maybe your clients are using that seem to be killing it in the GovCon space?
No, and I say that kind of like I know IBM has part of it, and I'm not promoting IBM or anybody else, so I'd be very clear about that. But I know that there are quite a few software companies that have established their own version and have created a model of some sort that can be, whether it's generative, whether most of it's kind of a data analytics platform, creating algorithms to help analyze certain data or provide dashboards and whatever particular piece of it. But there's so many out there. Honestly, I think actually a friend of mine actually provided me a long list of them and gave me notations on every single one that he had gone through and said, hey, maybe you should look at this a little bit deeper, and these are some of the ones that I've gone through. And obviously some of them are easier, some of them cost money, some of them don't cost money, but it all just depends on your preference. Obviously the ChatGPT, because it's an open AI one, for now. They're talking about going, privatizing it. But if the overall piece of it is like, how do you use it, and just be open and honest about it. I have heard, and I've seen in some of the blogs and stuff like that coming out, I know we talked a little bit about it, was the orals that are now happening in GovCon. And orals have always been there, after a proposal submission and stuff like that, more so to provide a better articulation or a quicker articulation of what a software or what your solution may be. So a lot of the conversations are, oh my goodness, now there is, this orals thing that is being presented in a lot of proposals. And I go, I don't know that it's new, but it definitely is people using a whole bunch of different things or providing a very superfluous, proposal that they want to know exactly. Tell me exactly in this conversation with looking at me, explain to me what you're doing and how you're going to do it and how you're going to solve this problem for the government. So yeah, I know we had a big conversation about this. So what do you think? I mean, and what are you hearing? I mean, your clients are definitely, we share the similar backgrounds and stuff like that, but sometimes your clients are a little bit different. I know I in who I work with and the technology groups and the services groups and stuff like that. It's still taboo, which is why we're after hours right now having this conversation. People talk about it, but they don't necessarily talk about it in a way of how beneficial it could be or is, or how detrimental it could be. I mean, I know we've seen in other pieces where AI is there. It's not going to replace anybody, which I don't believe it is either. It should help everybody, and it should help advance mechanisms for companies. It's just, when is enough?
Yeah. So I think it's so important to constantly try to keep in the back of your mind that we have to balance efficiency and compliance with AI, with any process improvement that you're doing, specifically systems and AI in this case. But if we're balancing the efficiency, so making something easier to do, quicker, better, faster, whatever it is, right? Most of my clients, I think I've had one out of in the last year, and it wasn't even this year, it was last year. Last year, one client, specifically in the proposal phase for recruiting, asked outright about all of the AI that we would or wouldn't be using. I've never had anyone else ask that. And the answer at that point was none. I think it was like ChatGPT or fucking nothing. Like, I didn't have a good answer for him. But he was a high-end tech company who I think was creating AI or doing other stuff in general, and also had the commercial private and the GovCon component to his business. Mm-hmm. So I think in those instances, I see a lot more, at least, willingness to have conversation around AI or efficiencies, but there's still this weird undertone of like keeping it secret and like not for, I guess, a few reasons, not wanting people to realize you're doing, you charge somebody 8 hours for work that took you 30 seconds to do, and or also because they don't want you to like get the competitive intelligence advantage of knowing that they are, because then you could just go fucking use ChatGPT. So I'm assuming that's why people don't really talk about it. But my experience with it, or even understanding of AI as a whole, is pretty limited. It is to my specific recruiting GovCon life. I'm sure there's like cybersecurity people that were still to this day losing their fucking minds about the stuff that it can or can't do. So I'm sure there's a lot of that for reasoning maybe why people don't talk about it so openly. But I'm surprised. I hope as time goes by, we do have more candid conversation about how it's actually being used, because I think it is actually being used a lot by all of our clients and peers and all that, and a willingness to talk about it, because I think if we know the collective wisdom and sharing the experiences, and the friend that sent you, hey, the write-up I've used, I've gone through these 7 softwares and like this is where I landed with all of them, would be extremely helpful. Like it would be helpful, not hurtful, right? So hopefully we get there.
Yeah, I think it's just like every, new tool. I mean, way back in the day when internet first came out, it was like let's go way back there and talk about how, that obviously changed the world in many different ways, but there's still, that operating system is still being fought over at this particular day, and the whatever web browser you use is still being fought over, and there's still new ones popping up into it, and everybody has their level of preference and confidentiality they want to make sure they keep under it, depending it. But did you ever see? So I know we talked about it, and I think I know you saw it, but if anybody who's listening hasn't, there's a gauge report that was done by Conan Resnick and Uninet about 2024, like what's happened, and they actually did an AI maturity model that talked about where you and your company stand in regards to it. And they had 4 levels, and I thought it was kind of interesting is the fact that level 1 is resistant, and then level 2 is very curious, and then level 3 is emergent, and then level 4 is mature. And I go, is there a level of maturity at this particular point in time? Maturity being in the sense, maybe you've embraced it, maybe you're building a technology, maybe you're building a platform, whatever it may be, using AI. But maturity to me means that we're at a really good pace and place, and maybe they're in the forefront, which I think is truly what this may be. Now, with that being said, it looked, when they were doing like what the compliance was with the AI and stuff like that, I thought it was amazing is who was using it and when. Right? There's still a significant amount, no specific plans of people using it and wanting to use it, regardless of the size of the company. And that's the majority. And I was just like, okay, well, I don't know why I'm hearing it so much, just AI in general, but what do you, is it just my curiosity that's keeping it, in the forefront for me? What do you think? Is it you hearing more about it?
I do think I hear more and more about it. The Gauge report was great. So to Robin's point, anyone out there, please just Google Gauge, GAUGE 2024. It was by Cohen Resnick and Uninet, and it was awesome. But they did talk about their sampled size and who responded to the questionnaire. And it was interesting that I think it was like 48% or almost 50% were considered small business respondents. So to this whole AI and the maturity levels and the different stages a company may go through to adopt it. But in the use of AI, at least in the Gauge report, it said that it was like 58 or 60, 70 plus, it was some astronomical number. It was all like CEO or founder or presidents that were really using any sort of AI, which I thought was very interesting because usually it's menial bullshit tasks, right? So like, I'm assuming his executive assistant is the one using the AI, but maybe not. Maybe Mr. CEO is in there with ChatGPT or whatever he's doing. The report was fascinating. A lot of good insights and even suggestions. I think it did come out before? I can't even remember. It's pretty recent, but it didn't make mention of the executive order, I don't believe, that came out for GovCon anywhere in there. But generally speaking, it was, keep in mind cybersecurity for AI integration in your company. And then honestly, like employer workforce adaptability, like people's intention to actually use it, which is true of any system in a business. If you're going to spend money on it and roll it out, you want your people to actually use it. And then the concern, again, was just more around like the shit data in, shit data out, biased element of using it as a whole, and still trying to keep the human element of a decision-making process and kind of thoughtfully evaluating the data that was presented was really what the Gauge report said. I don't know if anyone other than like you, me, and our peers and other providers are really ever talking about it. Like, again, my clients don't really say anything to me about it, except for that one that asked. And I guess, I don't know, I don't have enough cool fucking tech friends that want to talk about it. I don't know. But I have questions. I have so many questions. So if you're out there and you want to talk about it, call us. We are ready for the conversation to take place. What are you using? How much is it costing you? Send us your spreadsheet. Let's talk about it. And maybe we can all get on this this bandwagon here. I know, honestly, a good way to use it, one I recently looked into, I was messing around with my website trying to I was trying to upgrade, but I actually broke in the process of doing this, my company website, but writing, like, again, ChatGPT for content generation, taking content I wrote, putting it in there and having it kind of redo it and put it up. So from a marketing and web perspective, I know AI is supposed to be killing it. But other than that, I don't like, what about you? Are they talking to you about it? What kind of cool friends do you have that I don't know about?
Yeah, I don't. I would like to say I have cool friends. I know I have, quite a few of them that, know it exists, but really not big conversations. I'm having more bigger conversations internally with my team than I am anywhere across the board in regards to how to use it, but how to use it, ethically and morally and with a high level of integrity. But so because we can't answer all those things, we're not using it in that aspect. Similar to you. I mean, I can actually tell you that AI actually created a really badass tattoo for my brother that he hasn't.
Oh, did it?
but I spent I don't even know, hours and trying to do the iteratives of, no, I want this, but not necessarily this.
Yeah.
Try this. And to come up with multiple images that I wanted, I've sent to my brother to say, hey, what do you about these tattoos? And yeah, still working on that. But that part has been fun, just to make it inspirational in that aspect and kind of give you new ideas. But sometimes it does, and sometimes it just regurgitates a lot of already knowledgeable information. So I think of it like this. I think of it that it's smart enough as it can be at this particular point in time, but I don't know that it will ever exceed our brain power with our imaginative and creative juices in many aspects of things. It's how do you use it or manipulate it to be useful for you and how whatever it is brain power you're trying to get out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think to your point, it will never be able to bring the historical knowledge that we do to any one of our questions that we ask it, answers it gives us, right? And especially in GovCon, there's so much nuance here. ChatGPT is decent, but it's not going to give you a GovCon correct answer most of the time. So in wrapping it up, I will say, I think, and Robin, you can state your own opinion on this one, but I think I like AI. I'm into the idea. I'm open to it. The ones that we've played with, I do like. I do think it's important to understand it is a machine of algorithms and data models, and to understand that that's what you're playing with. So don't give it free reign. Don't give it all the power that you think it should. No, it's a no. So as long as that's kept in the back of your mind, I'm here for it. I would love for our colleagues and industry peers to hit us up and let us know what you're actually using and the cost, if you don't mind, and let us know how you're integrating it or not, or if you had a shit experience. Like, all the horror stories are the great ones. I think we're here for it. Collectively, I would love for us as a community to have that conversation. There should be some sort of repository of information for all of us that's like, hey, Avangard tried this, Human Design tried this, the Pulse of GovCon tried that, like blah, 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 just down the line to see who's doing what and come together, because that community mindshare is always valuable. But where do you land on AI after this?
Pretty much in the same boat. I really do think, after having this conversation, not that I didn't think it before, I think that everybody is keeping it very close to the to the chest in regards to, do we tell everybody how we're using it, and because that obviously opens up the competition, right? Yep. And in some cases it makes it less innovative for a company. I mean, it depends on how you're using it. I'm going to be very honest. I'm going to keep doing my research and keep doing my learning and absorbing everything I possibly can for it, but also watching how the government's changing with it, because that's going to be really important from what I do and what Avangard does as a whole on both sides of my fence. So yeah, and I will say to everyone out there listening to us right now, y'all slept on that executive order that we found the other day in doing the research for this podcast, because no one told me about that. I was like, where the fuck did that come from? Like, that's important. Nobody put that on LinkedIn. So like, all right, guys, we'll keep bringing you the breaking news here a year later. Excuse me. But with that, and my horrific pneumonia bronchitis cough, we would love to sign off. We hope that you will join us from here on out. And again, call us, text us, email us, LinkedIn us, all the things. The answers to the AI that you're using. Until then, cheers to your next week or month or however long it is until you see us again. And if you loved the conversation the way that we did, like and subscribe and follow us on all the places, YouTube, Spotify, Apple. I'm sure I'm forgetting other ones. Whatever. Find us. We're here for it. For sure. Thank you. Cheers and Here's to the next.